Welcome back to the Dad Compass podcast, where fatherhood meets real talk. I'm your host, Patrick.
And I'm Dmitry. Each week we're digging into the raw and unfiltered truth about being a father and trying to become the fathers that we strive to be without ever really having some guidance on it.
Today we're going to talk about screen time, both as a parent and also screen time with your kids. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a pretty good topic. It's gonna jump into some things I think most parents definitely struggle with, and maybe kids struggle with without really realizing it. So I would say, that being said, man, let's give the people our normal due diligence of Fatherhood Unscripted. Why don't you tell me about maybe a moment this week?
So we had I don't want to say we, but there was a death that happened last Saturday.
Oh man.
And it was my ex-wife's uncle. And it's a long story that I don't necessarily want to like dig too deep into, but
Sure.
my daughter had plans on Saturday, so we didn't actually tell her that he had passed until Tuesday. She knew he was sick and in the hospital, but it just hit her kind of. I wouldn't say it's the first time she's dealt with death, but I think at like the age that she is at, it was like the first time it really impacted her. Her grandfather passed away like 3 years ago, and she would have been like 7.
Jeez. They're
And
very
that's,
close.
yeah, he was like super. I wouldn't like, he lived like an hour and a half from here, so it wasn't like every day type of thing, but it was definitely a really good relationship. And I think she struggled with it a little bit. I think my boys struggled with it, but my boys weren't as affected by this passing. But man, Evelyn was pretty heartbroken. The dude was he was just a nice guy. Like he's kind of like that goofy uncle, I guess, and real playful and stuff like that. And so I think it like created a little bit of a bond for her. So I guess for me, it was just, trying to be supportive. And after the funeral was 2 days ago. I think she understood it a little bit better and processed it. I think it was more like the fact that somebody just exited her life that she knows that she's never going to see again, versus necessarily the relationship. And I don't want it to sound like cold or anything like that, but like that's just kind of how I felt her emotions. I think they were more like, I'm never going to see him again.
Yeah, I feel like that's difficult as a kid. And like maybe and especially once it starts happening more and more, because you kind of realize that it's not as, it's not as long as you think life is. As you get older, you realize that. It's kind of crazy. So I'm sorry for your loss, man.
Thank you.
Their loss as a whole.
What about you? What do you got going on?
I actually had a pretty good father moment, and
got a victory over here.
Yeah, we got a bit of a victory. So the past like 5 months, I would say, we every single night we do a good night prayer. So we try to bring God a little bit closer into our lives, to teach our kids that kind of value. And the past week, I've started asking, okay, each night we go through a person, and it's a gratitude thing. So the first night was my daughter, and I was okay. All right, guys, everybody say one thing that you're grateful for with Ellie. And then it was Ronan, then my wife, and my son. And last night it was actually me. And as a father, I don't know, I feel kind of weird having my kids be like, "Oh, you're awesome, dad," and this and that. And my daughter and my son both said that they wouldn't be as smart and as like willing to do the difficult things without, like, if I wasn't there in their lives. And that was a pretty huge victory, and the way that they said it was pretty impactful to me. And yeah, man, that was a pretty awesome victory. So
That's
that's been
awesome.
our yeah, and like we try to do like a gratitude thing, because I feel like if you end your night grateful or start it grateful, it's going to be hopefully a day where you're a little bit more mindful about the things that are going on in your life and if you should be appreciative or why you should be appreciative of them. So that's that was my victory, man. I think it's the first time I talked about a victory.
Well, no, you had the victory of the computer.
Which I'm using right now.
All right.
The money
No,
should be
that's
in my account, man. Dude, I gotta reel it back in before I get
that's
crazy.
it's cool that you do that every night too, and it's cool that you pass it around. It's similar to my how I would do things at dinner.
Well, I took your dinner idea too, just so you know. I
You
turned off
said
the
that
TV. Yep. And we've
no
been
phones
asking
at dinner,
questions.
which is
Yep.
ironic because that's the topic we're talking about today.
Yes, it is. Well, that being the topic, man, why don't you lead us into it? Why don't you kind of tell us what this episode is and kind of tell me your definition of screen time? What is it involving?
Okay, so yeah, that's what we're going to talk about: screen time with children, and then also as adults, and the struggle of burying yourself in a phone versus parenting, which I think everybody probably goes through. I mean, truthfully speaking, I do. I am aware of it and try to work on it. But yeah, let's talk about the from a kid's perspective first. I have two different situations because when I first started parenting, I was a big advocate of no screen time at all, like
Yeah.
very limited. And I will tell you, my ex-wife was a little bit different. So we ended up getting the older two boys like tablets, and I saw
Mm,
them getting buried in the tablets. And I really wanted to avoid that. Like I wanted them to go play outside, and I wanted
yeah.
to be creative. And to my ex-wife's credit, she's very good at like doing crafts and stuff like with the kids, and she's always been that way. I'm not like necessarily a crafty person, but like I just wanted you to have your own imagination. Because when I was a
Yeah.
kid, that's what I would do, right? Like we'd go play, you know, cops and robbers or whatever it was out back, and we were using sticks as guns, and you know, the game just continued to evolve based
Yeah.
off of me and most likely like my cousins or
Mm.
my friends
So
uh
let me ask you this.
imaginations. Go.
Imaginations.
I
Yes.
was I was not I was
You
not
weren't done.
spitting out words and then you asked a question, but imaginations was the word I wanted.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
what's your question? Because now I just
well,
threw,
yeah.
I
To
just
your
threw
point,
everything
like,
off.
no, it was perfect because I mean, the value of report. I think we had a little bit more imagination, maybe, and maybe we didn't. We just didn't have all the. We didn't have the tablets and all the devices and stuff to keep us occupied and distracted. Um, it's like a different way that time flies now. So my question is, how much time do you think kids on average are spending? And this is like without looking at the statistics and the facts, like what would you guess that to be?
So I think if you're talking about like on a school day, I would feel like 2 to 3 hours would have been my guess, which is still high.
Are you including TV in there?
I am.
Wow, that's like in this day and age. That's what you were thinking.
Yeah, because like you get home at 3. So for me, my kids get home at between 3 and 4,
Yeah,
and they're typically in bed at 8, between 8 and 9.
yeah,
Obviously, my older kids they go to bed whenever
9:30.
as long as they can get up on time, I don't really
If they
regulate
play the
that.
CADs right.
They what? They play
They
that?
play
Yeah,
the
that's
CADs
right.
right.
That's right. That's right. Um, I know I'm underestimating just now that we're talking about it out loud, but like I guess in my head I would have assumed 2 to 3.
Gotcha. That's fair. All right. So what's the actual statistic? What do you got?
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
You just dropped this on me, Dmitry. I just should have been more ready. All right. So
You were ready.
I
You
mean I
had
was
this.
ready. I was ready-ish.
Just gotta scroll
Children's
past turtle facts.
ages 8 to 10 average 6 hours a day. And
Jeez.
teenagers, so I'm assuming 13 and up, average almost 9 hours a day.
Jeez. Yeah, 11 to 14, and then 15 to 18, 7.5 hours. So
Yeah,
do you think it's accurate?
I mean, it probably is. Like, I don't see my teenagers like they get home and then they go into their room, so
Yeah.
they're on their phones or else they're watching TV. And I think that's the part of me that like when I was initially thinking, I was thinking of the kids, like the younger kids. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of interaction at the end of the day with them. Um, a lot more interaction. We do dinner, so like there's just things that I guess I was thinking
They
2 to 3.
included more.
What's that?
I feel like it's maybe included more isn't the right word, but they're around a lot more. So
Yeah, I don't have to chase them down to hang out with them. They want to hang out with you. You're
yeah,
teenagers, you have to actually chase down and hold a gun to their head to have them to hang out with you.
doesn't really happen. Just in case.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I was just joking about that.
That was a joke.
Mm-hmm. That was a joke.
World. I feel like you have to say this in this day and age.
But I also have a little bit different perspective now, and I'm not necessarily justifying the whole screen time thing, but with August being on the spectrum, he really needs that like stimulation. And
Sure.
I'll give a good example. Like, I got home the other night and he was in the living room. He was actually building Legos, but he was watching TV, and I don't even know what he was
Mm-hmm.
watching. It was trash. All the stuff that kids watch is trash to me. But
Sure.
I was like, hey, since you're building Legos, I'm gonna play on the Xbox. And so he was totally fine with it. It was all good. But the
Yeah.
minute that the TV got shut off, he lost his total attention span. And it wasn't necessarily that he was even watching TV. He just needed
It's the
that like
sound. Yeah.
background noise, and he needed to know that like when he's building his Legos, he could take a break and actually look at the TV
Yep.
and see something that's important to him. So I do have a little bit different perspective on screen time than I did when I was,
Man.
first parenting.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's necessarily more acceptable. And we're really good at like regulating like what August watches. When he goes to bed,
Yeah.
he doesn't get to watch his tablet. He gets to listen to it, and it's bedtime stories. And so,
Gotcha.
but I do have a little bit different perspective than I used to have. I used to be like it was a hard no for me. Like, there's just no reason for it. Go shoot your brother with a stick in the backyard.
Yeah. 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 I think it's kind of funny. Like what you just said. It's that having. So my son does kind of like a similar thing. So he'll put on like Blue, or so he'll put on a show. He'll start playing with his toys, and I guess maybe not. He'll he'll either just have a show on and he'll sit down and watch it, or he'll get really distracted by the show and kind of forget that he's playing with his toys. Um, I mean, there's days where the TV is literally turned off and he'll just play with his toys and he's super quiet, and it's really cool to see. I remember when I was a kid, we were playing with like the wrestling was like super huge, and I used to have like a wrestling ring and everything, and you could play there for hours, use your imagination and pretend these dudes are jumping off the ropes and breaking each other's ribs and shit. Later find out it was all fake. Um, to an
Wrestling's
extent.
not fake.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with the other adult shows. Um, but yeah, man, like seeing their imaginations fire off is pretty cool. I have noticed, and one of the biggest issues that I personally have with screen time with them, and I've said this to my son before and to my daughter, and it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. They're inundated with these dopamine spikes. So they don't like this show, cool, they can change it. It's just they're able to constantly cycle through things instead of actually creating that dopamine. It's literally being spoon fed to them, which I think has the biggest issue. And that's what takes their attention spans away. And maybe that's their, not maybe, I have a feeling that's where the behavior kind of comes from. The moment that they have to do something a little bit more difficult, they go from saying, okay, well, I can't just push a button. I can't just switch the episode because I don't like what's happening. They have to actually go through it. And I think that is like a big detriment to like screen time and how it affects them. What do you think about that?
Well, it's kind of wild to think about. Like I guess I had never really thought about this, but when you were just talking about being able to like change something if they didn't like it, we didn't have that option when we were growing up. Like,
Nope.
and honestly, like you couldn't watch cartoons if it wasn't Saturday morning for the most part.
That's right.
So like you had to. I always got up early on Saturday morning so I could
Mm-hmm.
watch cartoons, and it's
6
funny.
a.m.
It's funny because I don't even like cartoons now.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal to me, and Cartoon Network, and there was a couple other things that like you started seeing cartoons a little bit more and more through like our us growing up, but like it just wasn't a thing where you could access it all the time.
No, it was
So
not.
it's interesting that you brought up the dopamine spike of like being able to just kind of change and watch stuff. Well, and that's the crazy thing about August is that he'll watch the same show and he'll watch the show over and over and over again
Yeah.
sometimes. And he's not necessarily ever just sitting there watching it. A lot of times he's playing. It just goes back to what I was saying. Like he needs it on in the background.
Yeah. That's
Jackson and
fair.
Jackson and Evelyn are a little bit different. They specifically like to scroll through like YouTube Shorts, and most of their stuff that they're looking at is super like appropriate.
So how do you feel about that? What do you think? Okay, so I'm going to tell you my rule that I have. All right. And then because it touches on what you just said, my daughter and my son, like the little ones, are not allowed on YouTube. Like you might earn like 10 minutes of YouTube, but even then, it's not a thing.
So so that's kind of our rule with August as well. And I think with Evelyn and Jackson, I mean Jackson's 13, so I just regulate things a little bit differently based off of how their maturity level is, right? Like
Yeah.
Jackson's a pretty mature 13-year-old. Um, I don't have any issues with him, so I let him do it. He's got this plethora of knowledge, and I think a lot of it is from YouTube. That like I'll say, be like, I can't remember whoever was in that, and he'll just like drop it on me, and I was like, dude, how the hell did you know that? And I mean, I don't want to say it's all YouTube, but like I think a lot of it is YouTube. Evelyn watches more like um I'm trying to think. There's a group of kids, and so like her stuff is a little bit different, and it's more definitely more feminine.
Sure.
Um, and she doesn't do a ton of YouTube. Like before she
Yeah.
goes to bed, she flips through some shorts. It's kind of how she like. I think it's just how she rests her mind, and then she will go to sleep. So, um, yeah, I do understand what you're saying. I'm kind of that way because I don't want the kids to find something that like because you can find some crazy shit on YouTube for sure, especially if you're looking for it. But I
Yeah.
have this. I think it's just a level of trust that I give my kids until they break it.
Right on. Um, all right. So you said Jackson, you feel like a lot of his knowledge comes from there. So, all right, now let's talk. So, screen time in kids and having it be educational content. Is it how how do you guys feel about it, and how do you deal with it? And then I'll tell you how we feel and how, or at least how I deal with it.
It's really none of your business.
Well, this is I'm a communist, and I could just fucking meet you right now.
So you're asking about educational
Mhm. Like, do you
specifically?
think that there's specifically like
Oh, is there
educational, like
education?
not really? So you have screen time.
Yep.
Do you think that there's an issue with screen time if it is educational, or because if it's educational, the kid's technically learning, right? And it's not as bad. So do you think that, that what 7.5 hours or 8 hours is really bad if it's educational, or no?
I mean, it kind of goes back to the imagination thing. I think it might stifle people's imagination. I do think that Jackson's gets a lot of his almost useless knowledge. I don't want to say useless knowledge because I'm sure there's some
Sure.
use in there, but like he just knows a lot of shit. Like he
Yeah.
does, and for a 13-year-old, it's kind of funny. Um, when he just like drops random facts in there. Well, let me preface this. I don't know if they're facts or not, but he said it with a lot of confidence, so I trusted him. Um, but yeah, I think that if I don't know, I think 8 hours, even if it's all educational, still seems like too much to me. To
Okay.
answer your question,
Yeah, that's fair. I think I think whether it's educational or not, I think there still should be some some limits to it where you kind of have to earn that time. Um, and the kind of funny thing is, so with my son, since I work remote, I'm I don't give him his tablet until either it's a afternoon normally, or after he is done some educational. So if I tell him all the time, like, if you want to be on PBS Kids and playing their games or learning, I don't have an issue with that, because to your point, he'll come up randomly and start telling me stuff about these different animals. And while I'm working, as he's watching them talking about and kind of exploring, to your point, like he's using kind of his imagination and wants to see what they look like. Um, he'll come up to me like, "Hey, Dad, show me a lion, show me a panther, show me XYZ bird." I'm like, "Dude, that's not even a real bird." And I searching. He's like, "Oh no shit, it's a fucking real bird." Um, but yeah, like I think they're, whether it's education or not, I think it's kind of our job as parents to set boundaries and limits to either A, what they can watch, and B, how much they're on these things, in order for them to kind of thrive as children. You want them to have that imagination aspect. You want them to go out and have their hobbies, or paint, play with their toys, whatever it might be. Like what do you what's do you think you can force your kids to have the hobbies to get away from screen time, or
I think you can. I mean, I'm not a big like. I don't know. I wouldn't want to force. Well, let's talk about sports, right? Like I've
okay,
never forced sports down any of my kids' throat. Like I'm a huge sports fan. I love
okay,
sports and it's a huge part of my life and it was a huge part of growing up. Like from a lot of my friendships came from us all playing sports together and then even into high school it was that way. So, but I never wanted to force my kids to play sports because I didn't want it to be like my dream, right? Like cuz I've seen parents take that stuff too far and,
yeah,
I and I understand it. Like I've never watched the movie, but I've heard it's kind of crazy. The one with Will Smith about the Williams sisters, and I guess he was like
never watched it.
I think it's called something Richard. His
Is that
name's Richard.
pre-slap or post-slap?
It would probably be pre-slap.
Right on.
But anyways, he's kind of like this nut, and he forces his girls to be like amazing, and they are amazing, right? But was that his dream or was that their dream? And I think it's a very, I don't know, it's interesting because I don't know if he's necessarily looked poorly from his children, or from anybody else, but like, how far do you want to push your kids? And I don't like, I like to push my kids out of their comfort zone,
Yeah.
but I don't know as if I would feel comfortable to like make my dream their dream either. I want them to have their own dream.
Right
So
on.
forcing hobbies, I think, is a little weird, and I've never had to do that with my kids. Like, that's the other thing I will say, especially with the younger three. Um, they'll play together and they'll go downstairs and they'll just be creative and they'll do that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think when it gets to a time where like it looks like people are on the phone a little bit too much or on the TV a little bit
Hmm.
too much, we'll take that away and then we'll force them, but not force them to do their own thing. But we, you don't have to go draw. You don't
Yeah.
have to go read. You can do whatever you want.
You just have to do anything you want without any technology.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah. And so I'll just turn off internet and I'll just go randomly into, like, I'll tell my daughter, like, our laptop closed. I'll tell my son, toggle it off. And, I will say they're pretty good at it. If I say turn it off, some usually my daughter will give me the most. And she'll be like, why? And I'm like, because it's time. We've had enough of it. Between school and now we want to watch a show. If you want to watch a show, you could watch something on TV. You guys could watch something together, or we could turn everything off and you guys can figure something out to do. Um, the oldest one, he doesn't like it because he's just kind of like lost whenever I turn everything off for the first couple minutes, and then he kind of it's, it's kind of crazy. It's like he comes out of hibernation once the technology turns off, and like he's like, "Oh my god, family! Yeah, I'd love to be around you guys. This is amazing." But then the moment it's back on, it's like, "All right, see ya. That was fun."
Deuces.
Yeah, exactly. I've had enough of it. Well, I mean, so do you think we touch on some good points here for kids and screen time?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, you have any other facts or stats you want to throw in about the kids?
No, but
Do
I,
we
I
have
want to tell
anything?
you that you did a good job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good man. Oh, thank you. I'm trying. If you guys listen to our last episode, my biggest issue is staying on topic and being able to maintain a conversation fluidly without breaking my brain every 2 seconds.
You did a good job.
Well, thank you. Um, all right. So now we're going to do parents. So parents and screen time. How, let me start this off with a stat. So on average, okay, parents spend 7.7 hours on their smartphones compared to 2 hours with their children. That's kind of crazy. Parent smartphone usage is 1 hour and 20 minutes more than children. So 75% of parents use their phones during the limited time spent with their kids. That kind of goes into our, like, I think our biggest thing with, parents and screen time. Like, is it, you know, to to the point of the stats, like, we're on our phones way more. I'm on the screen more than way more than the kids, and so are you, because we're both at computers to an extent, right?
Yep.
Like me, 100%. I get up 10 minutes later, I'm literally on a computer. Um, so like, how do you? What do you think about that? How do you think it's okay?
No, no, no. It's definitely not okay. It's society, but it's not okay. I think that there's ways to navigate through, and I'm gonna tell you a couple things that I've done, and I'm not perfect at it by any means. But I'll tell you a couple things that I've done. So uh, there's this game called Merge Dragons. I
Okay.
downloaded it once, and I think I played it for like 22 hours in a 24-hour period. And I know that sounds crazy, but like I'm not even exaggerating. I felt like I was waking up every like 15 minutes to like check my
Yeah.
dragon farm. And it sounds super stupid, and I don't know what it was. Like it
It's a
sucked
dragon.
me in. It sucked me in.
It's that FOMO, dude.
I also I was never into Pokemon. It was never my thing. But a bunch of guys at work were like playing Pokemon Go, and my cousin was playing Pokemon Go, and so I was like, I'm gonna download this, and then it became like more of a
Hmm.
competitive thing for me, and so it naturally put me on my phone a little bit.
Yeah.
Not a little bit, a fucking lot. Like I was on my phone all the
Yeah.
time. I was check this out. I don't know if you know the story about me. So I was running striping at the time. Typical start time is between 6 and 7. I was waking up at 3 in the
Hmm.
morning, and then I was driving and catching Pokemon for like 2 hours before I got to work every day.
Are you serious?
I'm 100% serious. I was going through neighborhoods, driving, catching Pokemon.
Oh my God, dude. That's funny. I mean, it's a good
Um,
thing you didn't have a white van because the parents would be like saying, no, don't worry. He's not going to try
I
to
did
kidnap
have a
you.
white van.
But instead of
I
children,
got
you're trying to
arrested,
catch. No.
and then I told them I was catching Pokemon, not kids.
And
They're
they're
like,
like, oh, dude, you're good.
"You're creepy, but yeah, we'll let you go."
That's wild. No
Yeah,
shit.
that's a true story. I did it for like months and months. And it was because I was trying to level up faster than everybody else.
Yeah,
My
that
cousin
makes
was
sense.
always ahead of me. He lived in downtown, so he definitely had a little bit of an advantage. But he also lived on a park, which, i- if you don't know anything about Pokemon Go, like parks are a big thing. Which I started going to parks, and I was walking
Yeah.
parks in the morning and catching Pokemon, and
So there's exercise involved in it.
yeah. So I derailed a little bit, but anyways, is what I've done now since then is I have zero games on my phone. I just
Yeah.
refuse to put games on my phone because I know what it'll do to me. It'll suck me in.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. So like you kind of like you went through your thing and then you pretty much just like owned the habit of like playing the games or like letting them kind of consume you,
Yep. Yep.
right? And you know it's crazy. Do you feel like you get more consumed by them than kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy. I'm telling you that Merge Dragons game was insane. And this is not a promo for Merge Dragons. Do not download this game.
But
It's
if you
worse
do,
than
we need to get
crack.
paid for it.
Yeah, we do need to get paid for it, but it's worse than crack.
Worse than crack.
All right. So the other thing that I intentionally have never done, um, because I know the addiction of it, like joking but not joking, but is TikTok. I've never had TikTok on my phone.
Gotcha. So do you go on YouTube?
I do, and I did do the shorts for a little bit, but I intentionally do not click on shorts because it sucks you in.
Okay. So let's bring it back into the realm of we're sitting you as a parent, you're sitting in a room with your children. Um when's the screen time like, all right, you should probably put the phone down. Like you ever notice yourself doing that? 'Cause I know I have. And it's pretty it's kind of frustrating because it kind of turns into like a guilt kind of thing. And I say that because if I look over at my son or my daughter and they're like asking me a question and I realize that my phone's still in my hand with whatever else I was doing, they can see that like your attention isn't really towards them. And those are like the kind of moments that I realize, all right, put it down and I'll just move my phone away from me. And even if I'm sitting there watching a show, there's nothing else that's really distracting me from them. I think that's a pretty important part of um, kind of like owning that habit, and instead of it driving your relationship with your kids. It's kind of learning from him and going away from having a distraction from your own kids, because I think that's just crazy.
Yeah, I think I find myself doing it a little bit. Sometimes I think my struggle would be like if I'm in the middle of being on my phone, like maybe it might even be dealing with a work thing, like sending a text message or sending a message, and then my one of my kids comes up to me and interacts. That's when I struggle the most, and I think that I have a hard time stopping and
Yeah.
listening, and I'm very like head noddy, and yeah, that's fine. And then a couple hours will go by, and I'll be like, "Hey, how was your day?" And be like, "We just told you how our day was." And they're like, "You did?" And I was like, "Yeah, when you were sitting on the couch on your phone." And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for making me feel like shit."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's true though, right?
It
Like,
is 100% true.
and it's like hindsight's 2020. I think it's, yeah. I just feel like it's one of those things that, and to your point, like I have a hard time if I'm in the middle of like drawing a plan for work, and I'm putting in our title box, and I'm doing like my finishing touches, and my son's like, Dad, look at this show. Look at this show. I'm like, hold on, buddy. Like, give me a second. And then he'll ask me like 1,000 more times. And I find myself getting like more frustrated instead of being like, dude, what is it? What is so difficult for me to just like stop what I'm doing for a second, turn around, and kind of like acknowledge that, hey, dude, yeah, that's a cool Ninja Turtles or whatever it might be. Because for me, it might mean nothing, but for them, it means everything to
Right.
have our attention, even when it's like that finite. Like, because even though I'm at home all the time, I'm working. I always got stuff going on that you really got to find that like balance, and it's it's difficult.
Yeah, I intentionally stayed off of social media for a lot of years too for that same reason. I'm still not like I'm not super active. I'll get on there every once in a while. That's not true. So I get on Facebook about every day, but a lot of it is I'll scroll for less than 5 minutes, and then I kind of move on. And I might do that like 2 to 3 times a day, which now I'm saying out loud, we're talking about 15 minutes, but
Yeah,
um social media is one that I've just kind of always tried to stay away from because I think this actually happened years ago. I'm gonna keep the names out of it, but my mom was friends with a couple of my friends on Facebook, and she called me, and we were just kind of randomly talking. We talk pretty often, and she was telling me about one person. All of their posts are extremely positive. Well, I was communicating with that friend at the time, and his life wasn't that way. And
yeah,
so he was essentially had this uh, mask on social media.
mm,
And then the flip side is I had another friend that every single thing was negative, and he wasn't it didn't necessarily mean that everything was going positive. That's not really the moral of the story. But I
yeah,
realized like how impactful or how fake you can be on social media, and
yeah.
it's kind of fucking draining.
It is.
And so I will I will definitely navigate more towards positive people. I will not navigate towards negative people. And I made that decision, in the last 10 years. I just decided I can't be around people that are just going to suck me dry. So don't do it.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, yeah, and I think that's like the worst thing about social media, though. And I think that's it. That like I don't want to go all the way back into like the kids aspect of it, but kids don't understand that what you see on social media isn't the reality of it. So you're to your point, your mom had a friend, or you had friends, and your mom would see their posts and they were always positive. So that's her perception of that individual now. When in reality is they it's kind of like looking for those likes or those reactions from people to kind of boost your own day. So it's they're typically not like genuine emotions. Like if you have to, I look at it this way: if you have to put an emotion out or something out in order for you to feel okay with it, in a sense of like in a social like manner, so social media, that is, then you're probably not okay with it, and you're kind of looking for like a scapegoat in that situation. Um, yeah, I think that's my biggest like gripe with social media. I'll scroll on TikTok. I mean, not TikTok, on YouTube. I'll post stuff on TikTok, but I don't go searching through TikTok. And YouTube is usually, I mean, honestly, my YouTube is mostly like video editing or something like code related or some weird like history thing. I could never sit there and watch the people randomly like breaking shit, really just doing dumb things just to do them. Like I used to watch Jackass, but that was, that was a long ass. That was on TV. Like I don't search just to see people doing dumb things anymore. Um, but yeah, man, I think having accountability around your kids with your phones is, I think it's a difficult thing to do, because if you're using it as a like a wind down time, it's like we're winded down, but the kids are still wound up. You know what I mean? The more that they watch us do it, the more they're going to think that's okay.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And like I said, I think I've made attempts at to stay away from the things that I know that they will consume me. I still need to get better. I don't hate reading. I used to hate reading. I like reading. I have like 4 books that I need to read that have just been sitting here. I probably should be reading a little bit more, because it's just better anyways.
Yeah.
It it doesn't take away from this conversation, because if you're reading and not listening to your kid, it's still the same problem. But
Being present.
um, I think it's a better example anyways than being on your phone. But yeah,
It is.
I don't have any apps on my phone that like require a ridiculous amount of attention outside of Facebook and
Yeah.
YouTube. And I do try to limit it. And YouTube, I use it for podcasts. I use it to look up stuff. And I use it for sports ish.
Yeah.
I use ESPN for sports, but um,
Fair enough.
yeah, I think that there's better hobbies that you can do. It's definitely harder in the winter in Colorado to go outside and do stuff, but that's always an option too.
All right. Well, let me ask you, a question. Um, if you had to give a parent a specific, like, give yourself some advice that you think that you would listen to from yourself. Like, if there's one avenue, if with screen time, that you can give yourself some advice on, what would it be? Like, what do you think you would have to improve on? Like
Like
a self
referring,
reflection.
like self reflection.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I've kind of shared it. I've struggled with certain things, and I know that they were overly consuming me. I am a little bit more intentional now, about it, and I think that just comes with time and age.
Yeah.
I think as a 20-year-old new parent, your social media is a huge part of your life, and so it's hard to get away from it, but it's not impossible, and it's probably not as gratifying as you think it is.
Yeah.
Your kid is going to be way more gratifying than being on social media and getting that dopamine hit, as Dmitry mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, I don't live a life full of regrets, but I would say that I wish I was a little bit more present. And that was, that's kind of a basic statement because it was across the board, whether it was with work or whatever. But when you work 80 hours a week and then you're home for one day and you spend that whole entire day on your phone, it's your kids notice that stuff.
Yeah. So maybe
I don't think I answered your question, dude, but like I just think you really need to think about what you're doing and what example you're setting, and love your kids and be there. They'll pay you back.
Fair. I think I would say for me, if I walked in on me and I was sitting there on my phone and my kids are, trying to get my attention, it's kind of like a top-down view. And the biggest advice that I would give myself is not only to be like more present, but having like being present genuinely. Not sitting there and putting your phone away because you have to, but because it's the right thing to do. So I think my advice to me would be, hey, Dmitry, have a clear separation of work time and just like kid time. And when that kid time comes, be there. That's like my viewpoint of my own kind of shortcomings and what advice I should take for myself. You know what I mean? Because it's really easy to hand out advice to other people if you're listening and you're like, you know what, that might resonate with me. But the reality of it is, as easy it is to hand out the advice, it's pretty difficult to take inventory of your own things that are happening and make the changes. Because the changes are the hard thing. The words are the easy thing. Words are easy. It's applying that and being actionable towards it. That's hard.
Yeah, and I think it's an acceptable, like, I know it's probably hard with Ronan, but like, I think it's probably acceptable to say, hey, give me 5 minutes and then I'll give you 10, right? Like, let me finish what I'm in the middle of doing and then I'm all yours. And I won't even bring my phones.
Yeah.
I think that's that's okay. Like, we do have jobs to do, right? You have a job you have to do, and it's hard for you to distinguish between when you're doing that and when you're not, because you are working from home, so you don't never leave the house.
Yeah.
Not never, but you know what I mean.
Sounds fucking depressing.
You're a hermit. Anyways, but I kind of lost my train of thought, but I pulled a Dmitry.
I'm a hermit.
On Thursday. No, I'm just kidding. I was just going to start randomly spewing stuff. But yeah, telling your kid, give me 5 minutes and I'll give you 10. And maybe it's not 10, maybe it's an hour. And then just being more intentional. I will say that is one thing that I am bad about. I always have my phones on me. They're almost always within like reaching distance. Yeah. Maybe I should think about that. Maybe that's some good advice. Leave my phones in the bedroom for an hour and everything's going to be okay.
Well, yeah, I think we become a lot more present when we don't have the safety net of distractions.
Yep. Got
it. So I think your advice right there is super sound, especially for somebody that's coming to our podcast and wanted to get some value out of it. Being present, and I guess to a degree having like a no phone zone or a no phone time zone where, you guys give us X amount of time and then we're going to double that and return it to you. And they might not fully understand it or care, because they're gonna be like, well, dude, I just had a question. Like, I don't need 10 minutes for you to answer this question.
Yeah, just
But
answer my question now.
that's right. But I think it has more. I personally think that it has way more value to us as the parents, that if we can separate ourselves from it, they're going to be able to separate themselves more from it and be able to have conversations that are a little bit maybe more difficult, because they don't have the ability to have all those distractions.
Right. Right. Cool. Well, I mean, I think this is a good conversation today. I think you crushed it, dude. You did a good job. I know I said that already, but saying it again.
I think we're a little bit more. I think we're a little bit more guided. I think we did a little bit more research about what we're going to be talking about, and had a clearer direction to go. So, do you want to give us a quick kind of rundown of what we went through, kind of like a just like a summary of our conversation,
A recap.
a recap? There, that's the word, man. Recap.
All right. We did our intros, which was awesome. We talked about Fatherhood Unscripted. And then we spent a good amount of time on screen time, specifically with from a parenting style, right? Like parenting with screen time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the flip side of that is being a parent and being on your own screen, which I think are two real issues that are kind of challenging to navigate through as parents. It's hard to tell your kid no, and or maybe it's easy to tell them no, but it's hard to keep screens away. I'll say that. And then it's hard as a parent to not be on your phone. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, it's that time for the question.
At that time. I'm ready, man. I'm excited.
You're excited for the question?
I'm always excited for the question. I love the question.
Okay. So the question is, it's a 2-part question.
Oh, man.
You're a superhero.
All right.
What is your superpower and what is your name?
I guess that's a fucking tough one, dude. There's so many cool superpowers out there.
You know what's shitty about this? I never
What?
even thought about it. So
Can you only pick one?
I'm gonna struggle as well.
What's shitty about it?
Like a lot of times I know the question well in advance. I wasn't like, we didn't start the podcast and I was like, oh, I know a question I'm gonna ask. I literally just hit me.
Weren't prepared about your question. That's
and
good.
Then and then the name was like even added even more, like,
yeah,
good luck.
Yeah, I don't know why you did that, because I think my superpower. We actually had this question at dinner the other day, and it would be to be interdimensional. So I could be anywhere and everywhere all at once. So I wouldn't be tied to any plane of existence. And my name, I don't. It's so hard to like think of a superhero name as an adult and not have it sound gay. Like that's such a difficult thing to do. Like I'm looking shit on my desk to like come up with a name.
Well, I mean, you can be everywhere. Like, make it go with that.
Fucking Mr. Everywhere.
I'm just saying, like,
that sounds horrible, dude. Oh, look at that. It's Mr. Everywhere. Where? Everywhere. Like,
I didn't mean everywhere. I'm just saying, like, Go with that theme.
Like I feel like that can't even be a superpower. Who am I gonna fight? Like nobody's gonna want to fight me because I'm literally inside of them. I could be anywhere and everywhere. Like who's your arch enemy? I don't have one. I'm everywhere.
Everyone.
And everyone. Like yeah, like that's. I feel like all right. So like let me dial it back. Let's choose invisibility. I would want to be invisible or
Pervert.
no. Yeah, well, yeah, but definitely that's the first thing. But it would actually be time. Like, you ever seen the movie Clock Stoppers?
No, we talked about this on the first podcast.
That's what I would. I think I would want that. I want the ability to stop time.
You're not a big movie watcher, and you brought it up twice, so it must be
I
either a really good movie or it's terrible.
there's I like movies, but I only like certain movies. Like Inception, I love. The Last Samurai was awesome. Catch Me If You Can is absolutely outstanding.
Catch Me.
And
That's good.
it was so good. And Clock Stoppers it's not even that it's a good movie. It's just the concept of it was really cool. So that's and I guess my name would then be I don't know, Clock Tower.
That's a good one. I know it just like came out of nowhere. That's a good one. All right, there's a little bit of background for me.
All right.
So I was thinking of this while you were talking. I know my name already. As far as superpower goes, I've always been a big Batman fan, but he doesn't have any superpowers, which makes it weird, right? A superhero with no superpowers. Yeah. I mean, being rich would be a sweet ass superpower.
I mean, so's Tony Stark though, and he's kind of a badass.
But Wolverine, you just got in trouble. But Wolverine is also a superhero favorite of mine, and his character, um, played by Hugh Jackman is he's a stud, like he's a badass. So I don't necessarily want metal running through my body, but the availability, you're sick. The availability to or the ability to heal the way that Wolverine does, that would be my superpower. And my name would be, and there's a story behind this.
Okay.
It would be Captain Graybeard.
Can I tell you real quick what I'm getting out of your superpower right now?
What's
that?
that?
You want metal rods coming out of your body, and you want to heal after they're out, and your name is Captain Graybeard.
I don't want the metal rods. I said I don't need that. I just want to be able to heal. Like I want to be invincible.
You don't want to be full of adamantite.
Not invisible.
Adamantium.
Well, no, I mean I'm sure that's what are you saying to me right now? That's not the that's not,
that
it's
is, that's
one
what that's
it's,
what dude that's what
it's
he's
one
full
power.
Of. Adamantium.
I want to be indestructible. That's the power.
All right.
I didn't say multiple superpowers. I said one. You picked one, I picked one.
All right.
Captain Graybeard.
Captain Graybeard and Clock Tower.
When I first started dating crime. When I first started dating Deanne, we were doing she was doing some or Grubhub deliveries, and I went with her, and August went with her, and we were both chatting, and he said, my superhero name is Reverse Flash. And so he's like, what's your superhero name? And I said Captain Graybeard. So we were Captain Graybeard, Reverse Flash. We were literally just passengers distracting Deanne so she could deliver food to people. But it was one of our first, like, it wasn't one of our first interactions, but it was when we first, like, August and I first started, like, I guess bonding a little bit. So
yeah,
that's where Captain Graybeard,
dude, I love it,
comes from.
I love it. That was so good. I had a joke. I had something I was going to say.
I talked long enough. I talked the joke out of you.
I sometimes I feel like just squirrel. and then like it just gone. So it must have it was either really funny or it was just perverted. It was perverted actually.
Yeah, I'm not
It
surprised.
was about your name, and you started saying when you and Deanne first met. I was like, well, wonder if this was like a bedroom nickname that she gave you. But thanks for watching the Dad Compass podcast. I hope that you guys got some value out of what we said today and what we discussed. I hope you found humor in our conversation and maybe some relatability to your own life. I hope you guys comment, like, subscribe. And Patrick, do you have anything else to add?
Yep, 2 things. Tell us what your superpower would be and your superhero name would be. And then also just going back to the conversation today, how do you handle screen time, or what's a good, way for you to eliminate it, either with your kids or yourself? Like, we're curious as well. Might be something that we can utilize as well. So, but yeah, thank you. It was awesome. Good. It's a good one.
That's right. Well, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. And next week we're gonna talk about
Dad guilt.
dad guilt.
Dad guilt.
So the guilt of being a father, and
I couldn't tell if that was porn music or if it was Taylor Swift. Like
that's staying. I'm just saying I think this is gonna be our beginning.
Welcome back to the Dad Compass podcast.
And I'm Dmitry. Each week we're dick diving.
Dick diving.
We're dick diving.
Welcome back to the Dad Compass podcast, where fatherhood meets real talk. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Dmitry. We're gonna be. I'm not gonna lie, dude.
Dick diving.
All I'm here is a dog lapping up water.
Oh, you can hear. Oh yeah.